Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar, Boss Up Your Brand, within our Back to Workshop series. Andy Randazzo and I have been conducting free webinars in communications, marketing, and PR to help the local business community and our individual networks during this challenging time.
Hi, my name is Andy Randazzo. My company is HitState Marketing. We are digital marketing strategists and brand marketing strategists.
And my background and work experience are in broadcast journalism, public relations, and teaching. I am currently an adjunct professor in communications at Hofstra University, and I offer a suite of communication services and trainings through Burke Media. So before we dive into today's webinar, we'd like to let you know about some upcoming free workshops. One on October 8th, also a Thursday at 12 o'clock, How to Shoot Like a Pro. We will provide tips on how to shoot great video with a smartphone. And then on Thursday, October 29th, also at noon, Extra, read all about it. That's where we will discuss the techniques to get your company in the press. We will specifically talk about how to get press placements for your brand, and we hope you can join us. So for today, Boss Up Your Brand, we will cover what is a brand, how to build a better brand, your specific brand identity, and there's a lot to think about in that area, showing off your new brand, and our top 5 branding tips. Now, we do ask for the Q&A that you type your questions in the Q&A box below, and we will answer them verbally at the end of the webinar.
Yes, so let's get into it. All right. So what is a brand? I don't know if some of you have seen this post on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and other places, but an iceberg came to mind, right? So this is what we're calling the brand berg, right? There are parts that people can see, and there are other parts that are equally important, probably more important, that you don't see, that you should know about, that is part of the company's culture and strategy, right? So think about the things that people see about your brand and your brand identity, right? If they don't know you, what are they seeing? What are they hearing from you? And the other parts are all the things that are in the back end, all the things that you need to know about, all the things that, is part of your brand, why you do what you do, and why do you get up every morning doing it, right? So everything from your mission, the vision, core purpose of what it is that you do, values that you guys have, behaviors, tone, audience, positioning, offerings, and so much more. So we're going to get into each one of these. We're going to break them out into 2 different sections, the brand identity part of it and your brand culture and strategy. So how do we build a better brand? Start from the ground up. You don't start with your logo. Your logo is not your brand. Your logo is the identity of your brand, but it's not really your brand. Your brand is everything that's underneath, all the things that you really don't see, but you need to make sure that you have in order. Right? So discovering the purpose behind your brand. What does your brand stand for? What is your core values, your mission? What is it that, why do you do what you do? It's really important. Just think about it. Why do you do what you do? Now, if you're doing what you're doing in business just for money, that's not really why you do what you do. That's more of a result, right? Why do you do what you do? Is there a better way to do what it is that you do? Is it because you find, that there's something missing in the marketplace? Maybe there's, a better food. Like if you were a cupcake company, maybe you have just gluten-free cupcakes. Maybe that's why you do what you do, because you feel like there's a place missing for people that can't have, gluten in their diets. And, that's the essence of what your brand may be. Establishing a brand vision is incredibly important. Where do you want to go? Like, where do you see your company going? What is the vision ahead? Putting cupcakes in the hands of everybody that has, allergies, but wants something sweet. Creating that mission statement. What is it that you're doing right now and why is it important to the people that you're doing it for, right? So in this exercise, we're using cupcakes as an example, a cupcake company. So we'll be talking a lot about cupcakes. I hope everybody likes sweets out there.
And one thing, if I could just add to the mission statement, it's important that everyone is aware of this mission statement, that your staff, that it appears on your landing page, on your website. It needs to appear everywhere so people know the goal of your company and what you're offering to the public.
Right. And this is how to separate it. So there are tons of cupcakes out there, right? You can get a Hostess cupcake. You know, you can get a cupcake from Panera Bread. You can get a cupcake from Melissa's Cupcakes, right? So, you know, you have to say to yourself, who's your target audience? Like, who are you trying to appeal to? Like, whatever your business is, who are you trying to appeal to? Because there's lots of different, you know, avenues that you can go down, right? So are you the kind of person that just wants to go into a 7-Eleven and grab some Hostess cupcakes? I know I do, but there are times that you want like the best cupcake, right? So, you know, do a little bit of research, find out, you know, the brands in your industry. There's so many different kinds of cupcakes. You can get cupcakes that are, you know, the low end for a couple of bucks, and then you can get these really incredible high-end cupcakes that are made specifically for you and for what you want. So understanding your target audience and who you're doing this for is incredibly important to what makes up your brand. Because again, I can't stress this enough, but you know, your brand is more than your logo. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? So think about that. Your brand is not your logo. It's not your identity. Those are the things that you visually represent your brand, but your brand is really all those things that are underneath that iceberg. All the core values, the mission, the vision, you know, what you stand for, all those things. So understand who you're trying to target in your brand and who is your audience.
And in terms of competitors, in researching, take a look at your competitors' websites. What do those websites look like? What are they selling? How are they selling it? Are they on social media? And if they are on social media, in what capacity? What kind of content are they putting out there?
Yeah, and what are they saying? If it's a direct competitor, you know, what are they saying that relates to their brand, and how does it make it unique? And speaking of making it unique, what is that, right? What is your USP or your unique selling proposition? What is it that what is that one thing that makes you different? What is that one thing that separates you from anyone else? You know, is it location? Is it you're hyper local and you're right here? Is it that your cupcakes are gluten-free? Maybe your cupcakes are fat-free. That'd be great. Fat-free, gluten-free cupcakes. but if it was all these things, you know, make sure that everybody knows about that. You know, make sure that you make that a point to tell everyone that this is the difference between us and those other cupcakes, right? Your brand voice, you know, is it more casual? Is it more upscale? Is it relaxed, kick back? You know, what kind of brand voice do you have? Like, what are you saying? And what is that messaging? The messaging should, like Liz was saying, it should come across in everything that you do, right? That you're a kickback, laid back kind of cupcake company. Sounds funny. Maybe it should be a tagline. But maybe that's it. Maybe that's the thing that separates you from some of these other cupcake companies, right? You know, I mean, I've seen cupcakes as much as $10, $15 a cupcake, but you know, they've got cream in it, made with, you know, fresh ingredients. Everything's made there on location. And when you bite into that cupcake, that's an experience. You're not just eating a cupcake. I mean, you really are having an experience. And it sounds crazy, but to the people that it really matters to, it says something to them. You know, you're making something specific for them. And having a tagline, well, that kind of like, you know, tries its very best to sum up everything that you are in one line, right? Having, you know, that messaging and that tagline is absolutely key. And you'll see all of that in a brand's voice. And we'll have some examples of other companies that, you know, do branding really, really well. So instill your brand core values in every aspect of your business, whether it's your location, whether it's the people, the culture, the community around, why it is that you do what you do in your business. Let your brand personality shine in everything that you do. So whether you're posting on social media, whether it's posters or ads that you put out, whether it's the location itself, make sure it speaks to who you are and what it is that you do. So those are all the behind the scenes core values. And I have to stress this again, they're the most important parts of your brand, right? As a whole. So those are the things that you need to make sure that you have in order before you go ahead and build your brand identity, the things that represent you in the marketplace. So make sure you have the right messaging for the right people, the right tagline, the right core values. Make sure you spread it around and instill it in every employee, because your employees represent your brand. They're the people on the front lines. They're the people serving the cupcakes or making the cupcakes. They're the people that are really going to be talking to your audience. Make sure they believe in your brand. Make sure they believe in what it is that you're doing with your brand. And you think it's just cupcakes, but it's not. It's not just a cupcake. It's more than that. That brand experience that they get is why they're going to keep coming back. It's not your logo. It's not necessarily the name. It's not all those visual identities, although it does become it because of everything that happens underneath, everything that happens in this brand Burke. So now we're going to get into the things that, people can see. And what people can see are things like the name of the company. Incredibly important, thinking about the name of the company. Does it appeal to your customers? The logo and visual identity is what people will see again and again. So these are the things that are really important that, once they see the logo, they see your colors, they know who they're talking to. They know who they're listening to, rather. They know about the brand, and that brand represents something more than just the logo, the colors, its social presence, some of the images. It's a lot more than that, right? And then your social presence and more, and these are all the things that people see out there about your brand. So your brand identity is really, that's what, when people say branding, people a lot of times think about your brand identity, which is really the logo, the colors, the font, your mascot, your brand look, some of your messaging tagline. These are the things that people see. It's important, a logo. It really is, because it represents more than, just, pretty colors, icon, some fonts. It represents everything that your brand is about, right? A lot of times it's the first thing that people will see, literally see about your brand, right? A lot of times it's a business card or a website. So when they go there and they look you up, they hear about you, they look you up, they're going to see the brand logo, colors, the identity of your brand. And here are some examples of your identity. I mean, we even have a mascot called the Hitman, Hayden the Hitman. And he's a little guy that we have on our website. We have him in proposals and we put him in ads and things like that. And he's a little guy that kind of represents HitState, and kind of similar to the gecko in Geico. So having a mascot is pretty cool. It's kind of like your brand ambassador. The duck from Aflac is another great brand ambassador, or the king from Burger King, who I love. And then of course KFC, Colonel Sanders. So once you have that, once you establish your new brand identity, make sure you spread that everywhere. Everything from, vans, trucks, hats, t-shirts, social media, website, anything that goes out, make sure it's consistent, make sure it's concise. And when you think about your logo, it starts from there. It really does start from the logo and the colors, and then it kind of evolves and it gets spread out through your identity. How do you take a logo and then turn it into an email marketing campaign? How do you take a logo and turn it into a billboard or a poster? Make sure that it's really cohesive, and make sure you have some sort of style guide that goes along with it. And we'll be talking about that probably in this next slide or two. again, showing off your new brand on your website. Here's Amazon Go. Obviously, their brand is everywhere on the outside facade. They have signage, but just it's not, again, not just the logo, but just everything about this Amazon Go. Look at the facade. They always have their logo like on wood as you're walking in. The glass, you know, the just everything about it is, you know, Amazon. And when you look at an Amazon Go location in New York or Chicago or LA, they all look the same. They all have that same look and feel. Similar to when you go into, you know, like a Home Depot. Almost everything is in the same places. You know, everything has the same colors. Everything has the same layout. So whether you go into a Home Depot in New York or in Los Angeles, it has the same feel. You know, it has the same, you feel like you're comfortable there. And having that brand identity, showing it off and making sure it's everywhere is really important. Here we go. Here's the style guide. A lot of times people call us the brand police because, you know, whenever a logo goes awry or whenever a brand goes awry, you know, we need to make sure that we keep it back and pull it back and keep it back into place. So having a style guide is really important for whenever you're sending your brand identity out to vendors, whether you're getting a poster printed, a t-shirt made, whether it's, you know, on air, off air, whether it's video, TV, radio, like all these things need to be within the style guide. Everything from colors, logos, formats, you know, is it a horizontal logo, a vertical logo? Is it a knockout? Is it black? You know, is the publication black and white? What about the printed piece? You know, all these things need to stay within your brand style guide. And having that to be consistent is incredibly important. So similar to what we did with Liz Burke Media, you know, we have a logo, which is, we call the hero logo or main logo. That's the one that we use most of the times, but sometimes we need a horizontal logo, right? And then sometimes even further on down the road, we need an even more horizontal logo. So sometimes a logo can have, you know, 5, 6 different, and maybe even more than that, versions, depending on where it's going to be going. You know, maybe here in this example, the Liz Burke Media logo, maybe the horizontal 2 logo will go on a pen, but you can't see the main logo going on a pen. So you need to make sure that you have different variations of logos. Liz and I were just talking about that for a client just yesterday, that having one main logo is great, but what is it going to look like as a header? You know, and you need to have a horizontal version, maybe a vertical version, and then a couple of versions in between. Messaging, incredibly important. You know, here are some taglines, and here's some messaging that we did for a client recently. We see possibilities, right? So they are a local accounting firm, and they see more than just your accounting. They see the possibilities of your business. So what we did is, along with the brand colors and the brand that we were creating for them, is that they see into your business. They see into logistics. They see into the possibilities of your business more than just accounting. They're more than just accountants. And that's what the brand messaging for this particular campaign came about. And some other brands and their taglines, you know, if you look at Apple's Think Different, they've been using that for years, but it really, really speaks to what it is that their entire brand encompasses, right? They think differently about everything. Everything that they do, they always, you know, push the status quo. They're always thinking differently and thinking ahead. You know, how are people going to be, you know, using their phones in 10 years from now? Are there even going to be phones in 10 years from now? I don't know. But they're always thinking differently and thinking ahead. Nike's Just Do It. I mean, that's, you know, one of the most famous taglines of all times, I think, or at least in recent years. But just do it. I mean, it speaks to their brand. It really does. It's just get out there and do it. Forget about the excuses. Just get out there and do it. McDonald's, I'm loving it. You know, America runs on Dunkin'. You know, all these things aren't just a cute, you know, little tagline that's kind of fun and interesting. It speaks to their core values. So really think about your tagline and your messaging when you're thinking about your business, your brand, and your core values. You know, what is it that you stand for? I love Colonel Sanders' finger looking good. But one of my favorites is I think, coming up. But yeah, think about your messaging. Think about what that tagline means to your core values and your brand as a whole. This is one of my favorites. Frank's Red Hot sauce. You know, I put that stuff on everything. So again, it really does speak to who they are and what they do. They're a fun, interesting, you know, brand. You know, if you like red hot sauce, you know, you love Frank's. And why? Because, you know, you see images of that good, sweet old grandmother, you know, saying, I put that stuff on everything, which is great. And again, Nike's Just Do It, you know, one of the greatest out there, because not just because it just says something and not because you've heard it a million times, but just think about it, you know, just do it. Stop making excuses, get out there and do it. It speaks to their core values of who they are as a brand. Show off your new brand, add social media and more. I know we were saying this, but just spread it out everywhere. On the left is a campaign that we did for a client a few years back. We designed, you know, a new logo for them. And we were talking to them about their brand, and we were talking to them about, you know, their customers and their audience. So what we did was kind of fun. You know, we put their logo, I'm sure you can see the JA on the woman's hat and, you know, in the background of the fashion runway. That was their logo, but we put it in, you know, strange, interesting, precarious places that had to do with fashion, because that's what it is that they do. They do a lot of fashion cosmetics. So it was kind of fun, and they got a lot of reactions and interest because, you know, we were asking people, where is the logo? Like, where can you find it? Can you find it here? Can you find it there? And there were probably a dozen more of these posts. And it was interesting for people to, it was almost like, you know, finding Waldo. You know, it was fun, engaging campaign that got people to really, you know, look for the logo and chime in, which was really cool. And on the right is KFC. Does anybody remember when KFC ran out of chicken? What kind of chicken company runs out of chicken? But they were sorry. They were very sorry. And in a funny kind of, you know, tongue-in-cheek kind of way, they said, hey, we're sorry. You know, and KFC turned into FCK, which is kind of like, oops, sorry, we made it a boo-boo. And, you know, but it was just a funny campaign that got a lot of, you know, likes, shares, got a lot of interest, it got a lot of publicity in the fact that a chicken company ran out of chicken, which was pretty fun. So showing it off more, I think you know, Oreo does a great job of taking an Oreo cookie and turning it into something else all the time. You know, whatever it may be, whether it's get out the vote, whether it's pride, whether it's, you know, congratulations of a panda bear, or, you know, the Land Rover lands on Mars. You know, they can turn that cookie into just about anything, and it's fun, it's creative. People love seeing it. People love, you know, finding and seeing like what the cookie is going to turn into next. Great campaign. Here's a campaign that we did for a client where, you know, again, we're spreading the brand logo and the brand look in everything that we do. Everything from their, you know, Facebook and LinkedIn pages to e-blasts, banner ads, and posts. So you can see how the brand kind of like takes over and how we're using it pretty much everywhere.
And what I like about the Oreo campaign is the possibilities are endless. That's not just a short-term campaign.
Yep.
That can continue, and they can come up with different ideas, different holidays, et cetera, and incorporate that into the Oreo. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah. So think about your product and how you can use it again and again and again in some of your posts and make it unique. You know, maybe for a cupcake company, maybe it's like 4th of July and there's a sparkler on top of it. It's a video of a sparkler. You know, maybe it's, you know, Halloween and it's just an orange cupcake, you know. So think about what it is that your product or your brand or your service, and then change it and how it evolves from time to time. When you're doing posts that are specific to that day, maybe it's National Cupcake Day and you have a flag on top. I don't know. So just, you know, look at your brand, product, or service and how you can change it and adapt it and use it in different posts. This has to do with, you know, making sure you're branding and making sure that you're using hashtags. right? This is a way that, Nike's using hashtags, Apple is using hashtags, Coca-Cola is using their hashtag. So make sure that you're putting your company's hashtag in your posts, because when you do look up a company, that those hashtags will come up. For example, if you look up HitState, hashtag HitState, because we have it on a lot of our posts and because people have used it in some of their posts, you can look through the feed and see all of our Twitter posts, our Instagram posts, LinkedIn, Facebook, and so much more when we are noted in an article. So making use of social media and the tags, the hashtags that you use is incredibly important. So here's showing off your brand case study. We used Burke Media. So what we did is we really, try to get to understand, like, who is Liz? What does Liz stand for? What does she do? Who's her audience? Who is she speaking to? So what we did when we started, talking to Liz and trying to understand what is it she does, it's really communications, right? And communicating with people. So the first thing we thought of is a talk bubble, which is great as a logo. But then we really started evolving it and using it in so many different places, and you could see where the brand goes. Similar to Oreo and how they use that cookie for so many different things, we started using it for images and little call outs. But we could see this brand or her brand moving forward in so many different directions. It could be, the talk bubble, not only is it the logo, but it becomes like a housing or a vehicle to move video, to have images in it. Maybe you're pointing out certain things in an ad. Like we can see an ad of an image of people talking in the background and using these talk bubbles in, the color of her brand as an ad. So there's so many different possibilities with the logo when we first started out, understanding who she was, a communications company, and then using that talk bubble in every aspect of her brand and how it can evolve and move forward.
And Andy, you did a wonderful job on my branding. What I think was also important is, because my business is centered on communication and proper communication leads to a great image, there was a big focus on image. So the tagline is "Image is everything." So in terms of what I offer in my trainings and services, I provide communication development, professional development, and that really ties in well to the tagline, "Image is everything."
Right.
And you also leveraged my areas of expertise on the website and other materials, and you really tied it all together very well.
Right. And image is everything, which is really meaning your brand. Your brand is everything, whether it's your personal brand or whether it's your business brand. That image of your brand is everything to your audience. So here are some 5 top branding tips. So know and practice your vision, mission of your brand. So this is pretty funny. So stubborn on vision, flexible on details, meaning make sure that you're set and you're solid on what your vision is. The details of how it gets done and how it gets pushed out, you can be flexible on, right? But the vision, why you do what you do, you really, really have to be stubborn on. You have to really, really say, this is who we are. This is what we do. I'm not going to stray from that. That's why we do it. Can some of the details of that mission change over time? Sure. Apple's, details have changed. Who would have thought they'd be getting into the phone market when they were a computer company? There's no way. And when they first came out, everyone was like, wow, that's interesting. Why would a computer company come up with a device, a phone, a mobile device? But sure enough, here you are. That's, #1 best-selling product. So, but the reason is because they were really, really stubborn on their vision. And their vision is really just thinking differently about everything. Everything that they do, they're just really, really set in on. That's what we do. We think differently about everything. And that's what you need to be stubborn on, which is really your vision and your mission. All right, tip number 2, identify what makes your brand different. I know we talked about this a little bit, but let everyone know about it. It's great that you know what makes you different. That's awesome. That doesn't do anybody else good. Let everybody know about it. You know, if you're the cupcake company that, you know, does cupcakes locally and with local products and flowers and eggs and milk from local vendors, and, you know, these are the best tasting cupcakes on the planet, you know, let everyone know about what makes your company different, what makes your brand different, what makes your product and service different. Let everyone know what that differentiation is. Make sure that everyone knows about it, because so many times businesses, companies, and brands, they know what makes them different, but they're just not relaying it to their audience, which is absolutely key, because who cares what makes you different unless you let everybody know about it. You know, it's like the tree in the woods that falls and nobody's around to hear it. So just make sure that in everything that you do, everybody knows what makes you different. Number 3, make sure your logo and identity appear on everything. I mean, sometimes there's some times where you don't want it on it. You know, the only things I can really think of is, you know, maybe charity events and things like that, that are, you know, you don't really want to publicize you too much. Maybe it's a little bit smaller, it's off to the corner, but just make sure your stuff is on everything. So this is some work that we did for Nassau County Film Commission. It's their logo, their brand, and, you know, we wanted to show all the different ways that they can use it, by putting images of new movies that are happening on location, billboards, you know, taxi cab tops, and just having it everywhere. So make sure that your logo and your brand is on everything. And even if it isn't, let's just say it isn't your logo, make sure at least it's your colors. Because a lot of times you can look at an ad and say, oh, wow, that's a Nike ad. Or that's a Coca-Cola ad because it's got red on it, you know, and it's got a swoosh. You know, it may not even have the Coca-Cola logo, but you know it's the Coca-Cola brand because of that color and the swoosh that they use all the time. So just make sure that your logo and identity is on everything that you do. Number 4, make sure your message is consistent in everything that you do, right? Just do it, just do it, just do it. I can't even think of an ad that Nike puts out that doesn't say just do it, because everything that that brand encompasses is about doing it. It's about getting it done and doing it, right? So make sure that message is consistent and you have it everywhere. And number 5, we talked about this before, but instill your brand values on employees, vendors, partners, because they also represent your brand. Not just your employees, but vendors. Make sure that they know. I mean, if they're selling your product, or if you have partners that are selling your product, they're an extension of your brand. Your vendors are an extension of your brand. You know, what they give you, if you're not getting from them what you need to get them, you need to instill those brand values. Like, look, you gave us flour. We didn't like this flour. You know, we want, you know, the wholesome flour that you were giving us from the very beginning, because that's what we do. We can't accept anything else because our clients and our customers won't accept anything else, because that's your core values, right? So make sure that those brand values are instilled in your employees, vendors, partners, and more. That's it for now in terms of branding. So, you know, we say this all the time. We know it's a lot, but Liz and I always extend out an hour free consultation. If anyone wants to reach us, get in touch with us. Here's our information. And we invite you to reach out to us.
Yes, and some of our services overlap, but we each have distinct services as well. My business is very focused on one-on-one trainings as well as group Zoom trainings, anything from professional speaking, presentation skills, to job interviewing, crisis management. So, you know, we'd love to help the community with this free consultation.
Please reach out to us. Take advantage of this. So, questions. Anybody have questions? Let's turn on our video here so you can.
And we love questions. So we have a couple of questions. Number 1, how do I launch a new product or service that fits in with my existing brand?
Right. So we're actually doing that for a client right now, right? So they have an existing brand and we're launching a campaign for them. So the campaign can have its own look and feel as long as it has, the core brand values and identity. So when you launch that campaign, make sure that it has the same messaging, the same idea of the messaging, maybe not the same writing or the same tagline, but the same values, right? So the same values of what the messaging speaks to. And as far as the brand identity, you can use new colors and different colors because it's a different campaign, but you also have to give a nod to the initial brand, what the company is. Even though it's a campaign, above that is the brand. So you can do that by, again, like I said, just making things similar, but a little bit different, just keeping within brand. I know that may seem, difficult for people to understand, but as long as you have the same messaging, the same ideals, you can launch a new campaign like that.
And the next question, what should effective branding on social media look like? I know you talked about tags and hashtags, but what else?
Again, I think making your brand consistent on social media, whether it's the logo in the corner, whether it's the colors that you use. A company like EY uses yellow, and they use that angle, right? That is the delta. So they use that in all their branding. So whenever you see an ad, I almost always can tell an ad like instantly, that it's coming from EY and that it's an EY post because it's black and white. It's got the yellow delta in the bottom corner. So just making sure that you keep some of the brand identity in with those ads is pretty key in making sure that you stay consistent within that brand. And again, messaging too. Make sure you have the right messaging, making sure that you're speaking to the right customers. And sometimes, a brand may have multiple customers. They may have small, medium-sized business that they deal with, but then they may also have, multi-billion-dollar international corporations that they deal with. So that messaging may be different to them, but the message itself is the same.
And I also think on social media, it's important to leverage the profile page of every social media platform you are on. So the branding that you have on your website should match on the profiles on your social media platforms. It should all be consistent.
Yeah.
So treat your social media platforms just as much as you would with a website and have that same level of dedication.
Yeah, Liz has some good examples. Even ours, we are always using the light bulbs because that's kind of like what we are. We come up with ideas, but it's always in that orange kind of color. So we're always trying to keep consistent within that brand identity and colors. So that another good point is that so that people don't have to figure out again who they're listening to, right? So if you have that consistent color, brand identity, logo, they know who they're immediately seeing an ad from and who's talking to them. As soon as I see, the EY yellow and the black and white and that delta, slash, I know that EY is saying something. Or, it's red and it's got that swoosh, I know that, Coca-Cola is talking to me. So having those things be consistent, it's almost like so you don't have to keep repeating yourself as to who you are. So using that brand identity identifies you as opposed to like everybody else that's out there.
Right. Okay, so we covered the questions.
All right. So again, some of our upcoming workshops. Liz, take it away.
Just a reminder, our next two free workshops, October 8th, How to Shoot Like a Pro, and on October 29th, Extra, Read All About It. We will send registration links to you if you would like to join those webinars, and we would be happy to share our expertise on these topics with you in October. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.